My mom tried to force my sister back on substances after nearly unaliving her, so I sent her packing for good. 2 years later, she's threatening to sue for family alienation. Mom tried to force my sister back on substances after nearly unaliving her, so I sent her packing for good. 2 years later, she's threatening to sue for family alienation. No more kneeling on rice. No more emotional manipulation. No more turning family members against each other. This time, she was going to learn what it felt like to lose everything that mattered. I spent the next few days at the hospital, only leaving Leah's side to grab coffee from the vending machine or use the bathroom. The nurses started recognizing me, bringing extra blankets without me asking, and sometimes sneaking me food from the staff room. One of them, Beverly, even brought me a toothbrush and some deodorant on day 3, which was honestly a lifesaver. Leah was in and out of consciousness those first couple of days. The doctors explained she'd taken a dangerous amount of Adderall mixed with some other stimulants. Her body was basically shutting down to recover. Each time she woke up, she seemed surprised to see me still there. Like, she expected I'd have given up on her and left. "You don't have to stay," she mumbled on the third morning, picking up the hospital bracelet on her wrist. "I know you have classes and stuff." I shrugged and showed her my laptop. Already emailed my professors. Got extensions on everything. I didn't tell her I'd made up a family emergency, which wasn't really a lie anyway. "I'm not going anywhere." The look on her face nearly broke me. It was like she couldn't comprehend someone putting her first without expecting perfection in return. When Leah was finally discharged 5 days later, the doctor pulled me aside. He told me she needed supervision and support, that this wasn't just physical but psychological. I nodded like I hadn't spent my entire life watching my sister crumble under impossible expectations. "She can stay with me," I said without hesitation. My dorm room was tiny, but I'd figure something out. Maybe my roommate Lauren would understand, but Leah had other ideas. "I need to get back to my apartment," she insisted. Her voice stronger than it had been in days. "I have assignments due next week." I stared at her in disbelief. "Leah, you almost died. I think your professors will understand if you need an extension." She shook her head, that familiar stubborn look returning to her eyes. "I can't fall behind. Mom always says, Mom isn't here." I cut her off probably more sharply than I should have. "And thank God for that, because she's the reason you're in this mess." Leah flinched like I'd slapped her. For a second, I thought she was going to defend our mother, but instead, she just looked down at her hands. "I don't know how to be any other way, Katie." That hit me hard because I knew exactly what she meant. When you've spent your whole life being told your worth depends on achievement, who are you without it? I drove Leah back to her apartment, which was about an hour from the hospital. The place was immaculate, of course. Color-coded binders lined her desk. Her planner was filled with highlighted tasks and deadlines. Even her refrigerator was organized by food group and expiration date. It was like living inside a productivity app. "Jesus, Leah, when do you actually live?" I muttered, taking in the sterile perfection of her space. She ignored the question and headed straight for her desk, where a sack of textbooks waited. I intercepted her, physically blocking her path. "Nope. Doctor's orders. Rest first." I steered her toward the couch and practically forced her to sit down. "When was the last time you watched a movie just for fun?" She blinked at me like I'd asked her to recite the alphabet backward in Mandarin. I don't remember." "So that's what we did." I pulled up some mindless comedy on her laptop, ordered pizza, and made her sit there and do absolutely nothing productive for 3 straight hours. At first, she was tense, checking her phone every few minutes, making mental lists of all the things she should be doing. But somewhere around the halfway mark of the second movie, I noticed her shoulders relax. By the end, she was actually laughing. I stayed the night on her couch, and the next morning, I called my professors to explain I needed another week. Most were understanding, though my econ professor was a real duck about it. Whatever, some things were more important than perfect attendance. Over the next few days, I established a routine. I'd wake up before Leah, make coffee, and hide her textbooks. When she'd emerge from her room, already anxious about all the work she wasn't doing, I'd hand her breakfast and distract her with something totally unrelated to school or achievement. We went for walks. We tried baking cookies. Disaster. We talked about everything except our mother. A week into this arrangement, I knew I had to head back to Stanford for at least a few days to take some exams I couldn't postpone. I was packing my overnight bag when Leah appeared in the doorway of the guest room I've been using. "You're leaving?" Her voice had that slight tremor that reminded me of when we were kids, and she'd try not to show she was upset. "Just for a few days," I assured her. "I have to take these midterms or I'll fail the courses." She nodded, trying to look like it didn't bother her. "Of course, you should go." I zipped up my bag and turned to face her. "I'll be back on Friday, but, Leah, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you won't contact Mom while I'm gone." Her eyes widened slightly. "I wasn't planning to." "Good. Because she can't know about any of this. Not the hospital. Not me staying here. None of it. I took a deep breath. And I need you to promise you'll take your meds exactly as prescribed. No extras. No skipping. She crossed her arms defensively. I'm not a child, Katie. No, but you're recovering. And I need to know you'll be okay while I'm gone. After some back and forth, she promised. I left her with the number of a therapist the hospital had recommended, made sure her fridge was stocked, and drove back to campus with a knot in my stomach. I didn't want to leave her, but I also knew I couldn't put my entire life on hold indefinitely. The week crawled by. I called Leah every night, and she seemed okay, tired but stable. She even mentioned she'd contacted the therapist and made an appointment. I aced my midterms despite the stress and lack of study time, which felt like a small victory. When I returned to Leah's apartment that Friday, I was shocked to find her looking better. She'd gained back a little weight. The dark circles under her eyes had faded slightly, and she greeted me with an actual smile. I slept 8 hours last night, she announced, like she'd climbed Mount Everest. And for her, maybe it was just as monumental. We fell into a new routine after that. I drive up every weekend, staying from Friday to Sunday. During the week, we text and call. Slowly, I watched my sister start to heal. She cut back her course load, dropped some extracurriculars, and actually started saying no to things. The therapist was helping her see that her worth wasn't tied to her achievements, but I knew it was only a matter of time before our mother figured out something was up. Leah had been avoiding her calls, making excuses about being busy with school projects. Our mom wasn't the type to accept being ignored for long. Sure enough, about a month after Leah's hospitalization, the SHT hit the fan. I was in the middle of a study group when my phone exploded with texts from Leah. She's here. Mom showed up at my apartment. What do? My blood ran cold. I mumbled some excuse to my classmates and ran outside to call her. When she answered, I could hear our mother's voice in the background, that familiar sharp tone that always made my stomach clench. I can't talk, Leah whispered. She just showed up. No warning. Don't tell her anything. I said firmly, I'm on my way. I hung up, sprinted to my car, and broke about 15 traffic laws getting to Leah's place. By the time I arrived, 3 hours later, the situation had deteriorated. I could hear the shouting from the parking lot. I took the stairs 2 at a time and burst through Leah's unlocked door to find our mother standing in the living room, waving a bottle of prescription medication. What are these? She demanded, her perfectly manicured nails clutching Leah's antidepressants. Are you so weak you need pills to function now? Leah was backed against the wall, looking smaller than I'd seen her in weeks. All the progress we've made seemed to have evaporated in our mother's presence. Then our mother spotted me. Her eyes narrowed to slits. I should have known you'd be involved in this. Corrupting your sister with your mediocrity. I'd spent years taking her verbal abuse, but something in me snapped. Maybe it was seeing Leah shrinking back into herself. Maybe it was remembering her hospital bed. Whatever it was, I'd had enough. Put those down, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Those are Leah's prescribed medications, and you have no right to touch them. Our mother scoffed. Prescribed by who? Some quack who encourages weakness? Leah doesn't need these. She needs to toughen up and get back to work. She turned to Leah. I brought you something better. She reached into her designer purse and pulled out a small baggie filled with pills. My stomach dropped. Adderall. The very thing that had put Leah in the hospital. Premium stuff, our mother said, like she was offering a special treat. Much better than that generic garbage you were taking. This will help you focus. Get back on track. Leah stared at the pills, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. Part of her, the part our mother had cultivated for years, was tempted. The other part remembered waking up in a hospital bed with tubes down her throat. I stepped between them. Get out, I told our mother. Now. She left. That cold, dismissive sound I'd heard my whole life. This isn't your apartment, Catherine. You don't get to tell me what to do. It's my apartment, Leah said quietly from behind me. Her voice was shaking, but she stepped forward. And I want you to leave. Our mother's face contorted with rage. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? By listening to your failure of a sister? Katie isn't a failure, Leah said. Her voice growing stronger. She's at Stanford. She has friends. She's happy. She took a deep breath. And I want to be happy too. Happiness? Our mother spat the word like it was poison. Happiness is for the mediocre. For people who settle. I raised you to be exceptional. You raised me to be miserable, Leah countered, and I'm done with it. Please leave. For a moment, I thought our mother might actually hit her. Her hand twitched at her side, and I tensed, ready to intervene. But instead, she just smiled. That terrifying cold smile that never reached her eyes. Fine. Throw away everything I've given you. But don't come crawling back when you realize what a mistake you're making. She dropped the baggie of pills on the coffee table. You'll need these eventually. When you're ready to be my daughter again." She swept out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. Leah stared at the pills on the table, then at me. Without a word, she picked up the baggie, walked to the bathroom, and flushed the entire contents down the toilet. I followed her, watching as the last of them disappeared in the swirling water. "She's going to make us pay for this," Leah said quietly. I nodded. "Probably. But we'll handle it together." That night, we stayed up late talking. Really talking. For the first time in years, Leah told me things I never knew. How our mother had been even harder on her when I wasn't around. How she'd threatened to pull Leah out of school if her grades slipped even slightly. How she'd isolated Leah from friends who might be distractions. I believed her, Leah admitted, curled up on the couch with a mug of tea. "I really thought if I wasn't perfect, I was nothing." "You're everything," I told her. "Perfect or not." We both knew our mother wouldn't give up easily, and we were right. The next morning, Leah's phone started blowing up with messages from relatives. Apparently, our mother had been busy overnight telling everyone that Leah was having a mental breakdown and that I was somehow responsible. "She's saying I manipulated you into cutting her off," I said. "Scrolling through the family group chat that someone had added me back to. That I'm jealous of your success and want to drag you down to my level." Leah read the messages over my shoulder, her face growing paler with each one. "No one's going to believe us over her, are they?" I shrugged. "Probably not. Mom's had years to perfect her image with the family. We're just the ungrateful daughters who don't appreciate her sacrifices." The messages kept coming throughout the day. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all expressing their concern for Leah and their disappointment in me. Some were subtle, asking Leah if she needed help getting away from me. Others were more direct, telling me I should be ashamed of turning my sister against her own mother. We decided to ignore them all. What was the point in trying to defend ourselves to people who had already made up their minds? But then things escalated. Leah started receiving anonymous texts from numbers she didn't recognize. At first, they were just vague warnings about making a huge mistake. Then they got more specific, more threatening. "You'll regret cutting her off. Everyone knows the truth about you. Your sister is poisoning your mind. Wake up before it's too late. Your mother only wants what's best for you, unlike some people." I urged Leah to change her number, but she was reluctant. "That's letting her win." She argued. "It's not about winning," I countered. "It's about protecting your peace." The breaking point came a week later. Leah was at her university library when someone approached her. A distant cousin she barely knew who happened to attend the same school. The cousin made a scene, loudly accusing Leah of breaking our mother's heart and letting me manipulate her. Security had to escort the cousin out, but the damage was done. Leah called me in tears. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "Everyone's looking at me like I'm either crazy or cruel." That night, I helped her change her number. We also decided it might be best if she moved, not just to get away from our mother, but also from the network of flying monkeys she'd enlisted to harass Leah. I spent my spring break helping Leah find a new apartment, this one in a secure building with a doorman. We didn't tell anyone the address, not even friends we trusted. It was exhausting and expensive. But watching Leah breathe easier in her new space made it worth every penny and sleepless night. Just when we thought things might calm down, our mother took her most drastic action yet. She contacted Leah's university, claiming Leah was having severe mental health issues and needed to be looked after. The university, erring on the side of caution, called Leah in for a wellness check. I drove up immediately when Leah called me about it, panic in her voice. "They're questioning my ability to continue in the program," she told me. "Mom told them I tried to call myself." I was livid. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was actively trying to destroy Leah's future. I marched into the dean's office with Leah, armed with documentation from her therapist confirming she was stable and the hospital records showing what had really happened. "Your mother seems very concerned," the dean said carefully. "Looking between us, our mother is abusive," I stated flatly. "She's angry because Leah has finally set boundaries, and she's retaliating by trying to sabotage her education." The dean looked skeptical, but the documentation was hard to argue with. Eventually, he agreed to disregard our mother's claims, but the whole ordeal left Leah shaken. "She's never going to stop, is she?" Leah asked as we left the administration building. I squeezed her hand, not willingly, but we can make it harder for her to reach us. Our mother's next move was to start calling Leah's friends. One by one, she contacted them, spinning tales about Leah's instability and my negative influence. Some friends saw through it, but others began to distance themselves, unsure what to believe. Leah was devastated. "She's taking everything from me," she whispered one night after another friend had canceled plans. "My reputation, my friends, my peace of mind." I held her while she cried, feeling more helpless than I had in years. "Not everything," I promised. "She can't take me, and she can't take the truth." That's when I started documenting everything. Every text, every call, every flying monkey our mother sent our way. I began writing down all the abuse we endured growing up, the rice kneeling, the emotional manipulation, the impossible standards. Leah joined in, sharing stories I'd never heard before, things that had happened when I wasn't around. It was like lancing a wound, painful but necessary for healing. With each memory we committed to paper, our mother's power over us seemed to diminish slightly. What are we going to do with all this? Leah asked as our document grew longer and longer. Keep it safe, I said, for when we need it. That need came sooner than expected. One afternoon, a police officer showed up at my dorm room. My roommate Lauren let him in while I was in the shower, and I nearly had a heart attack coming out to find him sitting at my desk. "Catherine Wilson?" he asked, standing when I entered. I nodded, clutching my towel tighter. "What's this about?" "I'm following up on a report filed by your mother, Eleanor Wilson. She's claiming you've been harassing your sister, Leah, and coercing her into cutting off contact with family." I almost laughed. Of course, she'd go to the police. When manipulation didn't work, she escalated to legal threats. Classic Eleanor Wilson playbook. "Officer," I said calmly, "my mother is lying. My sister and I are both adults who have chosen to limit contact with an abusive parent. I have documentation of her behavior if you'd like to see it." He looked surprised at my composure. "Documentation?" I asked for a moment to get dressed, then returned with my laptop and pulled up the file Leah and I had been working on. I showed him the hospital records from Leah's OD, the threatening messages we'd received, and our written accounts of the abuse. The officer read through it all, his expression growing more troubled with each page. "This is extensive," he said finally. "My mother has been emotionally abusing us our entire lives." I explained, "Now that we're standing up to her, she's retaliating any way she can, including filing false police reports, apparently." He closed the laptop and handed it back to me. "I'll need to follow up with your sister to confirm your account, but based on what I've seen, I don't think there's any case here against you." After he left, I called Leah immediately to warn her she might get a visit from the police too. She was scared but ready with her own copies of our documentation. When the officer did speak to Leah the next day, she held her ground. She confirmed everything I'd said and added her own experiences. The officer left convinced that our mother's claims were baseless. This should have been a victory, but it just made our mother more desperate. That weekend, she showed up at my dorm unannounced. I was studying in the common room when Lauren texted me, "Your mom is here. She's mad." I could hear her before I even reached my floor, screaming and pounding on my door, demanding to be let in. Students were peeking out of their rooms, watching the spectacle with wide eyes. "Where is she?" my mother shrieked when she spotted me coming up the stairs. "Where's Leah? What have you done with her?" I kept my distance, staying at the far end of the hallway. "Mom, you need to leave. You're making a scene. Don't tell me what to do." She lunged toward me, but a couple of guys from the rugby team who lived on my floor stepped between us. "You've poisoned her against me. You've always been jealous of her." I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling campus security if you don't leave right now." She laughed that horrible cold laugh. "Go ahead. Call them. I'll tell them how you've manipulated your sister, turned her against her family." I dialed the number while maintaining eye contact with her. "Security? Yes. There's a woman causing a disturbance on the 3rd floor of Wilkins Hall. She's screaming and threatening students." "Yes, I'll stay on the line." My mother's face contorted with rage. "This isn't over, Catherine. I'm going to sue you for defamation and family alienation. I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done." Security arrived minutes later and escorted her off campus. I watched from my window as they walked her to her car, her designer heels clicking angrily on the pavement, her back ritted with fury. That night, I got a message from my cousin, Arthur, warning me that my mother was indeed talking to lawyers about suing me. I wasn't surprised, but I was exhausted. How much longer could this go on? I met with a legal advisor at the university the next day who assured me that any case my mother might bring would be virtually unwinnable. Defamation requires proving that you've said things that are untrue and damaging to her reputation. He explained, "From what you've shown me, everything you've documented is factual." Still, the threat of legal action hung over us. Leah was especially worried, afraid that being dragged into a lawsuit would affect her standing at school. "We need to end this," I told her during one of our weekend visits, once and for all. "How?" she asked, looking as tired as I felt. "She's never going to stop." I thought about it for a long time. Then I made a decision that would change everything. I took our documentation, all of it, and compiled it into a single comprehensive account of our mother's abuse. I included photos of my knees after rice kneeling sessions, screenshots of her threatening messages, and statements from both Leah and me about the emotional toll of her parenting. Then I sent it to our entire extended family. "What have you done?" Leah gasped when I told her. "They'll never believe us." "Maybe not all of them," I acknowledged, But some might. And even if they don't, they can't unsee what we've shown them. The response was immediate and divided. Some family members dismissed it outright, calling us ungrateful and dramatic. Others were shocked, claiming they had no idea what was happening behind closed doors. A few even came forward with their own stories about our mother's controlling behavior. The family fractured along these lines: those who believed us, those who didn't want to get involved. Holiday gatherings would never be the same, but I couldn't bring myself to care. For the first time, the truth was out there. Impossible to ignore. Our mother, predictably, was furious. She called, texted, emailed, raging about how we'd betrayed her, how we'd pay for this humiliation. We blocked her on every platform, then silence. For 3 whole days, we heard nothing from her or her supporters. Leah and I were cautiously optimistic that maybe, just maybe, she'd finally given up. We should have known better. On the 4th day of silence, I got a text from my Aunt Janice. She'd always been one of Mom's biggest supporters, so seeing her name pop up on my phone made my stomach drop. "Have you seen what your mother posted on Facebook?" I hadn't. Both Leah and I had blocked Mom on all social media platforms weeks ago. I asked my aunt to screenshot it, and when the images came through, I had to sit down. Mom had written this long dramatic post about how her daughters had abandoned her after she'd sacrificed everything for us. She included old photos of us as kids, looking happy at birthday parties and family vacations, the kind of carefully curated moments that made us look like the perfect family. The comments were flooded with sympathy and outrage on her behalf. I called Leah immediately. Mom's gone public with her victim narrative. I told her, forwarding the screenshots, she's painting herself as the heartbroken mother whose ungrateful daughters turned on her. Leah was quiet for a moment. "Let her," she finally said, surprising me. "We know the truth. The people who matter know the truth." Her calm reaction shocked me. Just a month ago, this would have sent her spiraling, but therapy was working. She was getting stronger. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered it. "Is this Catherine Wilson?" a woman's voice asked. "Who's asking?" I replied, immediately on guard. "My name is Cynthia Martinez. I'm a reporter with the Daily Chronicle. I'm doing a story on parental alienation, and your mother, Eleanor Wilson, contacted me about her experience." My blood ran cold. Mom was taking this to the press now. I hung up without responding and immediately called Leah. "A reporter just contacted me," I told her. "Mom's trying to get our story in the newspaper." "Jesus," Leah muttered. "She really won't stop, will she?" We spent the next hour coming up with a plan. We couldn't stop Mom from talking to reporters, but we could refuse to engage. No comments, no interviews, nothing that would add fuel to the fire. But Mom was always one step ahead. The next day, an article appeared in the Daily Chronicle's online edition. "Mother's Heartbreak. Local woman shares story of daughter's estrangement." The article was mostly Mom's perspective with a few quotes from family friends, probably her flying monkeys, backing up her claims. The reporter noted that Catherine and Leah Wilson declined to comment for this story. The article itself wasn't that bad, but the comment section was brutal. People calling us ungrateful, saying we should be ashamed, speculating about what kind of awful daughters would abandon their mother. It made me sick to my stomach. Leah called me in tears. "Everyone at school has seen it," she said. "Someone printed it out and left copies in the student lounge." I was furious. This had gone too far. "I'm coming over," I told her. "We're ending this today." I skipped my afternoon classes and drove straight to Leah's new apartment. When I got there, she was sitting on her couch surrounded by crumpled tissues. "I can't do this anymore, Katie," she said, her voice hoarse from crying. "I can't keep fighting her." I sat down next to her and took her hands in mine. "Then let's stop fighting." She looked at me confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, let's stop reacting. Stop defending ourselves. Stop caring what she does or says." I squeezed her hands. "Let's just live our lives and let her scream into the void." Leah wiped her eyes. "You make it sound so easy." "It won't be," I admitted, "but I think it's the only way we'll ever be free of her." We spent the rest of the day making a plan. First, we changed our email addresses and phone numbers again. We set up new social media accounts under slight variations of our names just for close friends. We told our universities to flag any communications from our mother or anyone claiming to be a family member. Most importantly, we decided to completely disengage from the drama. No more checking what Mom was saying about us. No more defending ourselves to family members. No more caring what strangers on the internet thought. It was like cutting off a limb, but it was also strangely liberating. The next few weeks were tough. Mom escalated her campaign, giving interviews to anyone who would listen. She even started a blog called "When Children Abandon Their Parents," which was thinly veiled stories about us. Some family members continue to reach out, either to berate us or beg us to reconcile with her. We ignored it all. I focused on my classes at Stanford, and Leah threw herself into her therapy and her reduced course load. We talked every day, supporting each other through the hard moments. About a month into our new approach, I got an unexpected visitor at my dorm. It was my cousin, Elijah, who I hadn't spoken to since the family split. I was wary when I saw him standing outside my door, but he quickly raised his hands in surrender. "I come in peace," he said. "Can we talk?" I let him in, keeping my guard up. Elijah sat awkwardly on my desk chair while I perched on my bed. "I owe you an apology," he said, surprising me. "I believed your mom's version of events without question, but then I started noticing things that didn't add up." He explained that he'd been at a family dinner where Mom had gotten hammered and started ranting about us. Her mask had slipped, and the venom in her voice when she talked about me had shocked everyone at the table. She'd said things like, "I should have drowned her at birth, and she was always defective." No one who loves their child talks about them that way. Elijah said, "That's when I knew you were telling the truth." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad that it had taken such an extreme display for people to believe us. Elijah wasn't the only one. Over the next few months, more family members started reaching out, apologizing for not seeing the truth sooner. Some had witnessed Mom's behavior firsthand. Others had gone back and read our documentation with fresh eyes. Few admitted they'd always had suspicions, but had been too afraid of Mom to speak up. Meanwhile, Leah was flourishing. Without the pressure to be perfect, she discovered she actually enjoyed learning for its own sake. She cut back to a reasonable course load, started a small study group, and even began dating a guy from her psychology class. She still had bad days, still struggled with the voice in her head that sounded like Mom, but those days became less frequent. I was doing pretty well too. My grades at Stanford were solid, not perfect, but good enough. I made some real friends who liked me for who I was, not what I achieved. I even joined the photography club, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for when I was constantly trying to be Leah's role model. 6 months after our complete disengagement from Mom, I got a strange email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was "Your mother." I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me open it. It was from my mother's sister, my Aunt Cynthia, who I hadn't heard from in years. She'd never been close to Mom, having moved across the country right after college. "I thought you should know that your mother has been hospitalized," the email read. "She had what they're calling a psychiatric episode at work. She was screaming about ungrateful children and had to be sedated. They're keeping her for observation. I'm her emergency contact since she has no one else." I forwarded the email to Leah with a simple question. "What do you want to do?" Her response came an hour later. "Nothing." It seems cold, but we both knew it was the right choice. Getting involved would only drag us back into her toxic orbit. We'd spent our whole lives trying to fix her, to please her, to be what she wanted. We were done. Aunt Cynthia kept us updated over the next few weeks. Mom was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, which surprised exactly no one. She was prescribed medication and therapy, but according to Cynthia, she wasn't taking either seriously. She was still fixated on us, still convinced we were the problem. "She'll never change," Leah said when I shared this with her, but we have and we had. A year after Leah's odd, we were both different people. Stronger, happier, free from the crushing weight of impossible expectations. Leah graduated with her bachelor's degree that spring. Not as valedictorian, not with a perfect GPA, but with a solid education and her mental health intact. I flew in for the ceremony, and we took about 1,000,000 selfies together in her cap and gown. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" she asked as we sat on her apartment floor that night, eating takeout straight from the containers. "Honestly, no," I admitted. "There were times I thought Mom would destroy us both." Leah nodded, pushing her noodles around with her chopsticks. "She almost did, but we're still here." We clinked our soda cans together in a toast. "Still here," I echoed. Mom continued her campaign against us for a while, but it lost steam as fewer people paid attention. The family members who believed her dwindled as more of them saw her true colors. Eventually, even the most loyal flying monkeys got tired of her constant drama. I graduated from Stanford 2 years later. Leah flew out for my ceremony, and we recreated the selfies we'd taken her graduation. Neither of us had heard directly from Mom in over 3 years by that point. According to family gossip, she'd moved to Florida and was telling everyone there about her estranged daughters who abandoned her. "Do you ever miss her?" I asked Leah as we sat on the beach the day after my graduation. It was something we rarely talked about. Leah thought about it for a moment. "I miss the mom I wished I had," she finally said, "not the mom we actually got." I nodded. That summed it up perfectly. We still have bad days sometimes. Days when Mom's voice creeps back into our heads, telling us we're not good enough, not working hard enough, not perfect enough. But those days get fewer and farther between. Leah is working as a school counselor now, using her own experiences to help kids who are struggling with pressure and expectations. I'm at a tech startup, doing work I enjoy with people I actually like. We talk almost every day and visit each other at least once a month. Last Christmas, we rented a cabin in the mountains, just the two of us. No family drama, no impossible standards, no walking on eggshells. We built a fire, drank hot chocolate, and exchanged simple gifts. It was the best holiday either of us could remember. If you're not first, you're last. Mom always said, well, we're neither first nor last. We're just us. And finally, that's enough.